Hi everyone, this is Gail Julie. I hope you're all doing well. Starting off today with my first ever beginners watercolour tutorial. I've just started my own watercolour journey and I'm really enjoying it, so I thought I'd share some work with you. Top left is the picture we're going to be recreating today, and picture on the right we'll hopefully be doing a tutorial in about a week's time, so keep an eye out for that. Okay, so I've got Saunders Waterford cold press knot, and it's £90. So as a beginner, I'm quite enjoying breaking it down into two sections because it means I get more experimentation basically on the one sheet, because this paper isn't cheap, and it just means I can get more textures and things in there, try different techniques. So it's something I recommend, and sometimes it's nice to work on a smaller piece. It feels a bit less daunting than a huge sheet of paper. Right, so yeah, so starting out, so we've got the mister spray, as I mentioned, misting spray. I have got, I tend to just keep my water in a little pot like this, fairly big bowl, so you can access it without tipping it over. I've got a palette here, which isn't ideal, so I think today I'm going to use a plate, a melamine plate that I've got, just because it's easier to sort of, you know, expand your paint area if you need to. And sometimes when you're using the credit cards or cut up store cards, which is what we'll be doing today, it can get a bit, you know, you're trying to, and same with brushes. If you've got a big brush like this Harky brush, it's not going to fit in there. So, you know, on a big plate like this one, all good. So these are just little things that I've picked up as I've been starting out. Okay, so colours that I'm going to use today are Prussian blue, Sepia, and burnt sienna. Now they're the only three colours that I am going to use, and they're all Windsor and Newton ones, these ones. So first job is to mist your paper. Oop, it's dribbling a bit. And this I just got off eBay. This is like a hairdresser's spray. So I'm not covering the whole area, just sort of like the from sort of like part of the bottom third up just above the middle there. Pitch down a bit as a bit of a guide. So I'm kind of starting about here, and just adding in, it's not going to be exactly like those, so let's just go for it. So get some Prussian blue on your credit card, just literally on the edge there, and I'm going to start bringing in some lines. Okay, and what we can do, I didn't mention this actually, I have got my painting on a board. So this was just the packaging that my paper came in, and I've taped it to the board, and this is just so that we can turn it around and spray directionally. So you can see that's starting to move down. I have got my board at an angle as well. Now that's a bit of a harsh strip there, if you caught that. So I'm just going to dab some of that off. And what I'm going to do is turn that back round, and then that should get it running this way a little bit as well. And I'm going to let that run all the way down, and I'm going to start adding some more strokes. Okay. And what you can do now at this stage is start using your mascara wand to just bring down some lines as well, or maybe move a few up. And we can also use the card, as I said, sort of directionally to get some of those lines in. Okay. Okay. And then what I'm going to do is bring in another colour. So I'm going to bring in some of that nice burnt sienna. And I want to add that in between. I don't really want to add it too much to the blue because you can see it's given us that sort of green tone, and I'm not really liking the colour of that so much. So I'm just going to bring some in the other paint, and I'm going to lay that down first. So I'm just going to bring a bit of that in the areas, you know, where it's just white basically. And we can again kind of get a bit of directionality by using the card. There you go. This area obviously looks different because it's dry brush. I've not got any water there at the moment, so let's just dab that out a bit. And again, we can get a little bit going. See, we're getting some nice sort of rivers coming through there now. As you can see though, the raw sienna does not want to move anywhere near as much as the blue has moved. So it's sort of obviously the way it's pigmented, I would imagine. It's quite a science, isn't it, when you start talking about art to that sort of level. But I've watched some really fascinating videos of people breaking down the pigments in watercolours and sort of, you know, telling you what's in there and how it's going to granulate and things. Let's get some sepia in here. It's not going up like that. And this is, you know, meant to be quite a loose. See, obviously this isn't turning green so much because it's a brownish colour anyway. This is kind of a, you know, a loose abstract, which I'll be honest, I really love doing at the moment. It's really nice to just be able to get something done really quickly and kind of feel like it's kind of, you know, come from your imagination, I think, rather than being a reference. So this isn't a reference photo. I've just picked my favourite colours and I'm just going for that sort of unexplored area that you might just come across out in the wilderness somewhere. And I want a bit of granulation going on somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my sepia. Obviously you need a bit of an angle for this. And I'm just going to drop a bit of sepia in here. And obviously it started to run of its own accord. But if I get the granulation medium, which is by Windsor and Newton, then this is great stuff because it will make the texture, make the pigment separate out, and the texture just looks fantastic. So you'll see what I mean if I start laying this down. There we go. You can see all the pigment running through, look, all those little rivulets. And it's just coming down to this sort of point at the bottom. No water beyond this point, so it's stopping there, and it just looks beautiful. Now you can do this with sepia the paint as well, so let's just get a bit up here. So obviously it will work on anything that has got that type of pigment in it. So I'm assuming it's just basically sort of separating it in a way. So I'm gonna see if I put a bit on the raw, the burnt sienna. It's again, it's not really giving us much. It's kind of moving it down a little bit, but it wants to stick together. I'll try a bit on this bit here. As I said, I didn't really want it too blue, but see if we can get it moving a bit. And I just love watching these sort of effects. I don't know if you had one like me, but when I was younger, I used to have one of those little sort of picture frames with sand and oil in, and you'd tip it over and it'd all come sort of, you know, dribbling down. I loved that. I've been trying to find one. I will, when I've found one, show you on the channel. But I really miss mine. I used to love watching it for hours, and this kind of makes me feel like I've gone back to that, which is one of the reasons that I like it, I think. So I'm going to go back to some Prussian blue, and I'm just going to add a few more lines in here. So it's nice to get a bit of directionality with plants and foliage, because, you know, it gives us a sort of suggestions of wind and movement in the landscape, which I like. Again, it's a sort of textural thing, so let's see if we can just get a bit more. And again, you can use the card in different ways. You can just get some on the edge and almost do sort of lines, almost like strata lines, or, you know, graduate that way. Or you can use it on the edge. You can also use it to scrape away the corners. If your paper's wet enough, you can sort of scrape away some of that blue. Okay, so it's starting to, yeah, starting to look like a bit of a landscape, I think. Not so happy with this bit down here, but what I could do is add some cling film there, or some salt. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for a different spray. This is a bit more of a sort of directional spray. And I'm going to try and get a bit more blue in here. Let's get a few more. I like to do sort of lines across as well, because that, as if it's, you know, like thinking about fields and ploughed fields and things like that. So not liking that so much because it's that sort of greenish tinge against that nice burnt sienna. So I think what I'm going to do, you can always clean your card on your kitchen towel there. It's always good to have kitchen roll with your paper towels. And I'm going to get some more of the raw sienna, no, burnt sienna, sorry. And you can use your fingers if you want to. That's it, just to sort of dampen it down a bit. And then what I'm going to do is lay that bit flat for now, so we can sort of see where we're at. If you're ever unsure and you don't want it to carry on dribbling, just lay your piece down, and then it will just it'll stop the, you know, the dripping. And I'm thinking maybe some cling film down here, and we can always run a bit of sepia ink underneath it. So cling film, I've got some here. So, but we are going to have to tackle that sky because we still haven't done anything with the sky. So I think I am going to do a burnt sienna wash on that. And what I'm going to do then, so obviously we just lay this down wherever we want that extra texture, but I am going to just run a little bit more sepia along here, I think, and let that run a little bit. And again, we can use some of that granulation medium just to make it look a bit more natural, I think. And we'll just get that to run down a little bit. I don't want it to go too far, but it'll just give us lovely, lovely texture forming there now. Really liking that. And then what we're going to do is just lay some cling film. We could wet this area a bit more. This is why I sometimes bring this brush into action. Just wet an area. And then what that will do is when you lay that cling film down, it's going to, you know, interact more because it will need more drying time. So I'm going to lay that. Don't want to lose a lot of this granulation, so I'm avoiding that. And I'm just going to lay that down like that. So that will be left to dry now. Obviously we've still got this sky area to work on. So what I'm going to do, show you how I did it last time, is I am going to add some salt. Get some burnt sienna going on, and I'm going to be quite brave with it and kind of just give it a bit of directionality. I'm not going to go completely down on all of that area there, so, you know, I'm not, because obviously sky doesn't perfectly, it's not like a perfect block of sky necessarily, you might have those clouds. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to add some salt to it. So I've got table salt, normal table salt, which seems to be very dry. It's kind of all clumping together at the minute because it's quite cold here. And because I'm laying this flat, the paper's buckling a little bit, it's kind of giving me quite a nice area there to, you know, that's quite pulled, which I quite like. And then I'm just gonna pour some salt on there, and that will be left to dry. And then I am going to add some salt to some other areas. So I'm going to add a little bit of salt on this one. So with the salt, you kind of, you don't want it, it's a tricky balance. You don't want it too dry, but you also don't want it really wet. So probably really this is too wet because I've literally just laid it down. So I should have waited a while, but I think it should give us an interesting effect anyway. So I'm going to go with it. And obviously when you're doing a video, it's like, obviously I could pause it, but I'm kind of trying to do this sort of as we're doing it. And I'm just laying down a few little bits of salt just to give us a bit more texture in some of those other areas. But you see what I mean, how the raw sienna, sorry, I keep saying raw sienna, the burnt sienna is holding together and just almost like pulling together even more and giving you that really vibrant pop, which I love. Let's just tilt it a tiny bit, get a bit more running down there. Yeah, let's go with that. Right, we'll leave it there. Okay, so once it was dry, I wasn't really happy with the sky. The salt didn't work very well at all in this one. So I got my fan brush and got some watered down white acrylic ink, and I'm just going to go in and spatter that sky area just to make it look a bit more sort of like natural cloud formation. So I'm just using a piece of card there to cover the, well, mask the rest of my painting because I don't want to get any of those white marks over any other areas. So this just helped make it look a little bit more natural. Okay, and here's the finished piece. So happier now with the sky. Now I've dropped in those white acrylic drops, and that was just the Amsterdam ink white acrylic. And would have liked a bit more texture down the bottom there, but really I don't think there was enough under the cling film to just, you know, kind of pull. So that was probably the issue there. Loving how the salt has affected these areas though. That was much better than I actually envisaged. So all in all, pleased with this one. Really the main thing I'll say about it is, you know, like my previous one, which is still drying out, it's looking quite different, the sky, but I think what you need to think about is just keep practicing with this same colour palette, because you will get different every time, which, you know, leads to happy experiments and interesting effects. So really it's just about practice, practice, practice. So I do hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and you've got something out of it. If you do give it a try, I'd love to hear from you. So please drop me a message in the comments. And also, if you want to give it a like, that would be awesome because that'll help spread it around YouTube. Now, if you'd like to subscribe, which would also be fantastic and mean the world to me, please just click my profile picture there, top left, and hit the bell and all notifications. That'll let you know whenever I've got a new video coming out. And bottom left is another tutorial that I think you might be interested in. So have a great week painting, guys. Look out for more of my tutorials. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.